Shelley Fabares was one of those stars whose life seemed to shine brightly on the surface, but was filled with struggles behind the scenes. Born on January 19, 1944, in Santa Monica, California, she came into the world during the last years of World War II. Her family was not wealthy, and from the very beginning her life was touched by challenges. Her mother, Elsa, had once dreamed of a career as a dancer, while her father, James, worked in real estate. Times were tough, and the stress of financial problems and personal issues would deeply affect Shelley's childhood. When she was only 2 years old, Shelley began to spend time on film sets, copying actors and pretending to perform. This early exposure planted the seed of acting in her heart. Her aunt, Donna Fabares, was already working in Hollywood and often inspired Shelley with stories about stardom. But while the dream of acting was exciting, Shelley's home life was far from stable. At just 3 years old, her parents divorced in a painful separation filled with fights and money struggles. Her mother won custody, but received only a small amount of support, barely enough to survive on. Shelley grew up moving from one small apartment to another, often wearing secondhand clothes, and eating meals made from a single can of soup. Despite this instability, she found small opportunities to earn money, posing for catalog photos and helping her family stay afloat. By age 6, she had already modeled several times, showing a determination to work hard. But even during those early years, Shelley witnessed her mother's struggles with depression, moments that would leave scars she carried for the rest of her life. Shelley Fabares was a beloved actress and singer who captured the hearts of millions during the 1950s and 1960s. Yet her life story is one filled with both success and heartbreaking struggles. She was born Michelle Anne Marie Fabares on January 19, 1944, in Santa Monica, California, during the difficult final months of World War II. Her mother, Elsa, was once a dancer who still carried dreams of stardom, and her father, James, worked in real estate. Her family's life was far from glamorous. Money was often tight, and arguments between her parents created an unstable environment for young Shelley. Still, from an early age, Shelley seemed to be drawn toward the world of entertainment. By the time she was just 2 years old, she was walking around movie sets, imitating the actors she saw, and showing signs that she might one day step in front of the camera herself. Her aunt, Donna Fabares, was already an established actress and played a big role in shaping Shelley's dream. Nanette often told her stories about acting, singing, and working in Hollywood, which filled the little girl's imagination with the hope of one day becoming a star. But behind those dreams, life was not easy. When Shelley was only 3 years old, her parents' marriage collapsed in a bitter divorce. Her mother was granted custody, but she received just $50 a month in support, which would equal about $700 today. That small amount of money forced Shelley, her mother, and her siblings to move frequently into tiny apartments around Los Angeles. Shelley recalled many times when dinner consisted of nothing more than a can of soup. Her family's constant financial struggles, along with her mother's battles with depression, meant that Shelley's childhood was full of stress, uncertainty, and sadness. These difficult early experiences would shape her view of life, even as fame and success later came her way. Shelley's early years were shaped not only by poverty, but also by emotional challenges. Her father left the family after the divorce and went on to start a new life elsewhere, never fully returning to Shelley's. This sense of abandonment haunted her throughout her life, and made her long for stability and love. To help support her family, Shelley began modeling at the age of 4, posing for Sears catalogs and earning just a few dollars at a time. Though the money was small, every little bit helped her struggling mother keep food on the table. Between 1948 and 1952, the family moved into 7 different apartments, often barely avoiding eviction. Shelley wore secondhand clothes and sometimes hid under her bed during her mother's angry outbursts. Her mother, Elsa, battled depression for many years, and when Shelley was only 8, she found her after a suicide attempt. These painful memories stayed with her well into adulthood. Despite these hardships, her aunt Nanette was a steady source of support. She provided financial help when the family faced eviction and introduced Shelley to the world of Hollywood. Nanette even took young Shelley onto film sets, where she got to watch actors and learn how productions worked. This early exposure gave her hope, even when her home life felt dark and overwhelming. But the struggles of her childhood did not end there. Shelley was also bullied at school for having a slight lisp that developed after a childhood accident. Kids teased her with cruel nicknames, calling her Stutter Shelley, and one bully even broke her arm in 1952. These experiences made her feel like an outsider and pushed her to turn more toward acting as an escape. By age 10, Shelley had found her way onto television, where she surprised everyone by performing a crying scene in one take for the Loretta Young Show. That performance earned her praise from adults who saw her as a natural talent, even though she had faced so much pain at home. Acting quickly became not just a dream but also a survival tool, giving Shelley confidence and a way to cope with the instability in her personal life. Shelley's first steps into Hollywood came during the 1950s when she started to land small acting roles. Her early days were not glamorous. Long hours on set, low pay, and missed school were common parts of her routine. In 1955, she appeared in the film The Girl Rush alongside Rosalind Russell and her aunt Nanette Fabre. The film was shot in Las Vegas during a dangerous heat wave, and Shelley fainted from dehydration on set. Despite the tough conditions, she impressed directors with her professionalism and ability to handle adult-level responsibilities at such a young age. But the demands of Hollywood took a toll. Children were not supposed to work more than 4 hours a day, yet Shelley often worked double that, sacrificing her education in the process. While she was highly intelligent, she ended up with average grades because she missed so many classes due to filming schedules. At the same time, she faced rejection after rejection, being turned down for more than 100 roles by the age of 15. Still, her persistence paid off when she signed a contract with Columbia Pictures in 1959. This contract promised her steady work, but gave her very little control over her career. Around this time, she began working on the Donna Reed Show, which would change her life. Shelley played Mary Stone, the daughter of the Reed family, and quickly became a household name. The show was watched by millions of Americans each week, and Shelley's role turned her into a teen idol almost overnight. Behind the scenes, however, the pressure was intense. She worked long days on set and had little time to enjoy a normal teenage life. Shelley's quiet and shy nature was very different from her character's perfect TV daughter image. Though she was becoming famous, she was also dealing with feelings of insecurity, exhaustion, and isolation. Still, the show gave her the platform to become a household name and set the stage for her next big success in music. While starring in the Donna Reed Show, Shelley was asked to record a song called Johnny Angel in 1962. At first, she was nervous because she didn't see herself as a strong singer. But when the episode aired where she lip-synced the song, it became an overnight sensation. Within weeks, Johnny Angel shot to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and stayed there for 2 weeks, selling over 1 million copies. Suddenly, Shelley wasn't just a TV star, she was a pop star too. Fans adored her wholesome image, and her popularity soared to new heights. She followed up with other songs like Johnny Loves Me and even released a full album. But the music world was tough, and Shelley admitted that she never felt fully confident as a singer. Still, the sudden fame put her in the spotlight in a way she hadn't expected. Concerts were chaotic, with screaming fans rushing the stage, and in one frightening moment at the Hollywood Bowl, she was nearly trampled by a crowd of fans. Despite her rising fame, the stress of balancing acting, music, and constant media attention began to wear her down. By the mid-1960s, as music trends shifted with the arrival of the Beatles, Shelley's songs stopped charting. She eventually decided to leave behind her short-lived music career and return her focus to acting. Looking back, Shelley often described the whirlwind of those years as both thrilling and overwhelming. She loved connecting with fans, but she struggled with the way Hollywood and the music industry often treated young stars like products rather than people. For a teenager who had already endured bullying, family struggles, and rejection, the constant public attention could feel suffocating. Still, her hit song and role on the Donna Reed Show cemented her as one of the most recognizable faces of her generation, even as she quietly battled with self-doubt and exhaustion. By the mid-1960s, Shelley was moving from her teen idol image into more mature roles. She began appearing in popular beach movies, and more importantly, started working with Elvis Presley in films like Girl Happy, Spin Out, and Clambake. While rumors spread about possible romances between Shelley and Elvis, she always described him as kind, respectful, and protective on set. Still, the constant attention and gossip were hard for her to handle. Around this time, Shelley married music producer Lou Adler, but their relationship was rocky and filled with rumors of infidelity. They eventually separated, and the emotional pain of that failed marriage stayed with her for years. Shelley was also deeply affected by the pressures placed on women in Hollywood. During one movie, her costume ripped during a dance scene, leading to cruel public comments about her body. These remarks hurt her deeply and highlighted the unrealistic standards female stars were expected to live up to. As the 1960s ended, Shelley found herself at a crossroads. She was talented, beautiful, and well-known, but she was also worn out from the demands of Hollywood and the personal challenges in her life. Her confidence took hits from rejection, harsh criticism, and the emotional toll of her marriage. Although she continued to work steadily, she never seemed fully comfortable with fame. Instead, she longed for a more stable and meaningful life outside of the spotlight. These struggles with self-image, pressure, and personal pain followed her into the next stage of her career, even as she worked to reinvent herself as a respected actress in more serious roles. After years of film roles and television appearances, Shelley experienced a career revival in the late 1980s, with her role on the hit sitcom Coach. From 1989 to 1997, she played Christine Armstrong, the intelligent and strong partner of Craig T. Nelson's character. The role won her praise from critics and audiences alike, along with 2 Emmy nominations. For Shelley, this role was different. It showed her maturity as an actress and gave her a character she could truly connect with. One particular episode from 1993, where Christine learns she cannot have children, was especially emotional for Shelley because it mirrored her own struggles with infertility. The scene resonated deeply with viewers, many of whom related to the painful reality of not being able to have children. Outside of Coach, Shelley also found success in voice acting. From 1996 to 2000, she voiced Martha Kent, Superman's adoptive mother, in animated series and films. This work gave her the chance to keep acting while dealing with her growing health problems. Voice acting was less physically demanding and became a blessing for her as she quietly fought illness. Despite the challenges, Shelley remained professional and gave heartfelt performances that connected with audiences. Her role on Coach not only brought her new fame, but also helped her find stability at a time when her health was beginning to decline. During this period, Shelley also remarried, finding lasting love with actor Mike Farrell in 1984. Their relationship provided her with the support she desperately needed as her health struggles grew more serious. Shelley's biggest battle began in the 1990s when a terrible accident changed her life. In 1994, she fell through the floor of her under-construction home, shattering ribs on one side of her body. While doctors were treating her injuries, they discovered that her liver enzymes were dangerously high. After years of mystery, Shelley was finally diagnosed with autoimmune hepatitis, a disease where the body's immune system attacks the liver. Over time, the condition became life-threatening. By 1999, Shelley's liver was failing, and she collapsed after a frightening internal bleed. At just 55 years old, doctors told her she would die without a transplant. She was placed on the waiting list, knowing that more than half of those waiting never survive long enough to receive an organ. For 22 months, Shelley lived in constant fear, barely able to stay awake and weighing only 90 pounds. She spent most of her time in bed, waiting for the pager that would tell her a donor had been found. The stress was unbearable, and false alarms only made the wait more painful. Finally, on October 23, 2000, Shelley received the call that a liver was available. The transplant saved her life, but it was far from easy. She faced life-threatening infections and complications after surgery, and recovery was slow and painful. Throughout it all, her husband Mike Farrell cared for her, helping her with even the smallest tasks. Shelley often described him as her rock during this time. Though she survived, the experience left her forever changed. She knew how close she had come to death, and never forgot the donor who had given her a second chance at life. Shelley's health battles didn't stop her from helping others. Even before her transplant, she had become deeply involved in advocacy work. In the late 1980s, her mother, Elsa, was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. Watching her mother slowly lose her memory and independence was one of the most heartbreaking experiences of Shelley's life. In 1992, Elsa passed away after a long battle with the illness. Shelley had already become a national spokesperson for the Alzheimer's Association and spoke to Congress several times to raise awareness and funding for research. She helped open an Alzheimer's Center at California State University Northridge and created documentaries to show the struggles families face when caring for loved ones with the disease. After her transplant, Shelley also began speaking publicly about the importance of organ donation. She shared her personal story, explaining how terrifying it was to wait nearly 2 years for a donor. She reminded people that one donor could save or improve up to 50 lives. Shelley Fabares was one of those stars whose life seemed to shine brightly on the surface, but was filled with struggles behind the scenes. Born on January 19, 1944, in Santa Monica, California, she came into the world during the last years of World War II. Her family was not wealthy, and from the very beginning her life was touched by challenges. Her mother, Elsa, had once dreamed of a career as a dancer, while her father, James,